coupled with a brick, brew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR, and we are live from Studio B. The B stands for Broncos, talking a little Broncos week 2 of OTAs. But before we get in there, a shout out to MSU Denver Online. Make sure you check them out, msudenver.edu/online, to scope out all they have to offer. They've got 750 total classes, 40 plus online and hybrid programs. There's so much to see over at msudenver.edu/online. So if you're looking to further that education while keeping a full-time job, MSU Denver is the place for you, because MSU Denver students work twice as many hours as students attending any other Colorado institution. Check them out, msudenver.edu/online.
My boys, what's shaking? I mean, today, guys, the B in Studio B could stand for boys. It could stand for Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater today was trying to make it stand for Bridgewater.
Or Bama, which we'll get to a little later.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's all. That's the buzz of the town, is Teddy Bridgewater throwing those nice floater passes into Jerry Jeudy today. So, let's not waste any time here. Mace is busting out the notebook. That's when you know it's time to get into the nitty-gritty here. What everyone wants to know, how are the quarterbacks, Mace?
Well, look, no decisions are being made today,
Of course.
but Teddy was the better quarterback today.
Okay.
And look, Jerry Jeudy pointed out, he talked about how, Drew throws, what is it, a hard drill? Is that what he said?
Yep.
Okay. And that Teddy throws a floater. The thing is, for the hard drill, for the bullet to be valuable, it's got to be accurate. And when Drew Lock wasn't checking down, taking the safe stuff, when he was trying to force it downfield, he wasn't as accurate as you would like. He had a couple of plays that could have easily been picked off. Teddy did, let's just make it clear, Teddy did have a play that Pat Surtain could have picked off. He tried to kind of jam it into Tim Patrick near the sideline, and Surtain jumped it nicely. And then kind of the downside of the floaters that he throws is that the placement is good, but sometimes it gives the defenders a chance to react. Late in practice, Bryce Callahan kind of came out of nowhere. Teddy had Noah Fant downfield, popped it up to him. Bryce read it perfectly, made the play on the ball. So that's kind of the risk that you get into when you have a quarterback who doesn't, right. He didn't pick it.
Okay.
Just broke it up. That's the risk that you have when you don't have the same velocity. Sometimes you find yourself watching these two quarterbacks and saying, boy, you wish Teddy had a little bit more oomph on the ball. You wish Drew had better placement.
Yep.
Well,
If you combine the two, you'd win a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, you've got to figure, if this continues, it's figuring out which you can live with. And unfortunately for Drew, that probably means you're going with Teddy Bridgewater, because as we've seen here in Denver, you can win with accuracy if there's not a lot of velocity. It's hard to win with velocity that doesn't have accuracy.
Well, and the floater was what almost got Teddy the interception on the day, was going to the outside. He was going right side about 20 yards downfield, and he threw it into traffic, but Patrick Surtain also had time to jump up. He should have caught it. I mean, it hit both of his hands. It was tough because trying to get your feet down on the sideline, but a great play by Patrick Surtain. So a near interception for Teddy in that play. And then Drew also had a near interception, almost doing the exact opposite, looking in the middle of the field, throwing into coverage where there were a lot of defenders, and he just throws a dart, but it's a dart 5 yards above the receiver, right into Jamar Johnson's hands. He just isn't able to hold on to it. So both of those guys with near interceptions today. But then outside of that, the other thing that Jerry Jeudy said about Teddy Bridgewater, so Drew has the dart, the hard ball, and Teddy has the floaters. He also said that Teddy throws with anticipation. Yeah. And we saw that on multiple occasions today. One for a 35-yard touchdown to Jerry Jeudy down the right sideline. Jerry was pretty open the whole time, so not much anticipation there.
But it was perfectly placed. I mean, Jerry is in stride. He's 2 steps past the defender. And, I mean, you cannot time that pass and place that pass any bit better than Bridgewater did. And you're probably going to mention the play to the left side, where he throws literally. Jerry is just starting his break, just trying to go into his break, and Teddy throws it and drops a dime in there. That's the sort of anticipation, guys, that I don't expect to see 8 days in with working with a receiver, or 4 practices in. But Teddy and Jerry Jeudy already appear to have really good timing and chemistry.
Yeah, the chemistry is really surprising for them so far, and you love to see it so far.
And now I'm starting to, dig a little deeper here in terms of the chemistry of those two. You know who also doesn't throw the hardest pass in the world?
Who is that?
Tua.
Yeah.
And that's obviously who Jerry had a ton of success with in college.
Mac Jones, too.
Yeah, Mac
They're
Jones.
placement
Yeah.
passers.
Right, those are placement passers. And it's kind of like pitchers, right? If you're not going to have the heater, you got to have the placement. You got to have you got to be able to really pick your spots. And it seems like that's something that Teddy has going for him. It is really unfortunate because both of these things come with major limitations. Teddy might not be able to hit that hole shot and cover 2 up the sideline as well as Drew, but Drew might not be able to hit that, corner back of the end zone float pass. Like, you really do wish you could combine these two together.
Yeah.
The one that, I've been saying for a while that I think the best thing for the Broncos is for Drew to win this job. Mm-hmm. And I think most people agree with that. But the one that coaches are going to gravitate to is the guy who does throw with anticipation, the guy who sees the field, the guy who's throwing with more accuracy. And it makes a very difficult situation for Drew. Now,
not just the coaches. What do you think the pass catchers think?
Oh, yeah.
That's where it's interesting. And we know that Jerry and Noah and others, they're not going to advocate for one quarterback over the other. They're too smart to do that. But what receivers prefer in general, they want that ball that's that just comes in like a pillow. It's easy to catch.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has, I guess, their preferences. They're probably not going to like it as much when, he tries to throw a slant soft and gets there late and they get their head taken off. But again, there's pros and cons that come with both of these things. Zach, before the pod, we were talking and you said, look, Drew's just really not pushing the ball downfield. And it makes me wonder if maybe the Broncos are trying to rewire his progression as a quarterback. He's always said gunslinger. Has he said gunslinger yet this year? I don't think he has.
No, he hasn't.
So I think the Broncos are really trying to, because again, this is the last stand for Drew Lock. If it doesn't work out this year, he's not going to be the starting quarterback here. He's probably not going to be the starting quarterback anywhere until something gives.
Yep.
I wonder if the Broncos are saying, look, we made a second-round investment in this guy. Let's do everything we can. A lot of times, I'll compare myself here. My grandpa always said, never change your golf swing. You can make some tweaks, but always stick with your natural. And I think for Drew, that's probably the way he's felt his whole life. And I wonder if the Broncos are saying, look, we got to change the swing. So we got to tell him, you're not a gunslinger anymore. You got to make the right decisions. Let's rewire you from the start. We want you to take the safe, easy thing throughout OTAs. And then as we work into training camp, maybe we'll start progressing you down the field. Or do you think he's just gun shy?
Well, I hope that's the case. It makes you wonder if that's the case, Ryan. It makes me worried that this is coming from within Drew saying, look, I got killed last year for not taking the easy checkdowns and for not being able to progress through my reads. So what I'm going to do now during OTAs and maybe during the start of camp is I'm going to go through my reads. And where do reads end? Ryan, reads don't end with a 1, 30 yards downfield. Reads end with the check down. And so that's what Drew's been doing. I mean, Mace, I don't know how many times you saw it. I don't have any notes where Drew threw the ball more than 10 yards downfield today. Now, maybe he did it once, but in terms of in air, he was looking short, just all the time. And this wasn't any different than what last week was during 7-on-7s. And another important thing is Drew right now, they're only doing 7-on-7s. We'll get into team periods next week, and maybe that's when Drew takes the training wheels off, or maybe when the coaches do that, and we'll see it open up, and I'll say, okay, it was just that. It was either Drew or the coaching staff progressing with Drew. But what we can't see and what is not good, guys, is a Drew Lock that's not going to go deep, because that's what makes him great is his playmaking ability. If you take that away, then what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
It's interesting because you feel like you're watching the two of them, and both of them, it seems like they're trying to do what's missing. Like, okay, you've got Drew who's trying to kind of take the safe stuff, and yet we know that he can push it down the field. Teddy, you know that he can kind of, play, just take fairways and greens. You're not going to try to get to the par 5 and 2, but he's trying to push it downfield. Now, there was one play late, and this is where I'm still learning the roster. Who's number 12?
Don't know off the top of my head. If you don't know him,
I mean, this is just. I'm literally scrolling through the Broncos roster right now, like
Bubba
Brendan
Caldwell.
Langley.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like we see, like I see these guys, and I think, and that's Trandy Benson's number. My bad.
Still around.
Trandy Benson is still around, and that was Drew's deep ball. And it was actually toward the end of practice. By the time they'd already said, okay, media.
So it wasn't during 7-on-7s.
No, it was during 7-on-7.
Okay.
After they huddled, they did a special teams period, and then they went back and did another 7-on-7 period.
Okay.
While we were waiting for the Zoom conference. So I went back up, I stayed there, and I watched it. And I'll give credit to Drew, because I'm just going to look at my notes here. It was down the sideline, 20 yards, and just Benson was wide open. Drew, a lot of zip on the ball. Put Benson in a chance to make with a chance to make the catch, and he did. But that was as deep. That was the one deep shot. Whereas with Teddy, we're pointing out down the left side to Jerry Jeudy, down the right sideline to Jeudy again, hitting Noah Fant, who, by the way, really nice route, got wide freaking open.
No one
on
was
this
within
route.
15 yards.
Exactly. I don't want to put blame, but it looked like some, and it was backup safeties at that point. It looked like one of the backup safeties just kind of missed the read on it, and kind of fell for the fake. Noah created that separation. Then Teddy just threw a very nice pass to Noah Fant that, with all respect, probably any quarterback should have been able to complete.
Oh, I would have been able to. I kid you not. He had 15 yards of separation in any direction from him. He caught it at about the 15 and then trotted into the end zone.
But sometimes, though, sometimes a quarterback will see that and get a little bit too excited.
I mean,
that's where you worry.
If you're not
someone
Case
might airmail
Keenum,
it.
then I think you're making it.
Was it up the seam?
It was no, thankfully it was to
down,
the outside.
Yeah, just outside the seam, right at the numbers.
Interesting. Was he lined up wide?
I think he was inside. And that was, well, we can get to this later, but because it kind of ties into quarterbacks. In 7-on-7s, which is no running, they're passing, we saw a lot of two tight ends. We saw a lot of tight ends with their hand in the ground. Maybe that just shows that we're really going to get a lot of two tight ends, a lot of tight end heavy package formations this year, because that's something you typically don't see.
Saw Andrew Beck line up at fullback in 7-on-7. How often do you see a 7-on-7 formation with a fullback?
I can't even think of a time where I saw 7-on-7 that wasn't shotgun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they were doing some different things today.
Good thing is today neither quarterback ran, so we did not have a Paxton Lynch running in 7-on-7s.
Yep. Any picks?
No picks that were from either of the top two guys that came down.
Yeah.
One of the things, speaking of picks, one of the things I really did like was Drew, after he had the near pick to Jamar Johnson, which should have been caught, should have been an interception. He came back and did nearly the exact same play and got it completed to Jerry Jeudy. It was about a 10-yard pass. Jeudy cut in 10 yards in the middle of the field. A lot of defenders found him this time. Zip of a pass. I mean, you have to be throwing the hard ones there, and he did it, got it, and then Jeudy turned upfield for what probably would have been another 5-10 yards. So I do like how Drew bounced back from that.
Yeah, it was that was probably his best moment, I would say. That
it was.
That or probably the pass to Benson. Now you had basically, let's see, Surtain nearly had the pick off Bridgewater. Jamar Johnson nearly had the one, and then late in practice, Ojemudia nearly had one. And also Ojemudia, he's getting a lot of run with Kyle Fuller not there. And Vic Fangio mentioned this after practice. When they go dime right now, it's Ojemudia who steps in. And he actually is looking pretty good. He's breaking on the ball quickly. It looks like he's settled himself from last year as well.
I wonder where he fits in. I mean, it's going to be really tough for him to find the football field this year. But
unless somebody gets hurt, and we know Bryce Callahan has that history.
Right, for sure. What do you think? I mean, is this a guy who can work his way into playing time, or is it just too hard?
Into playing time? No.
So it's special teams.
Guys, we're talking about how are they going to get their top 4 corners on the field. And they're going to have to find a way because you're paying 3 of them, and one of them is a first-round pick. And today, kind of the guy that some people like to point to as being the odd man out, Bryce Callahan, was not only speaking with us, which kind of points to where the organization feels about him, but also Vic said he's going to get on the field some way, somehow, meaning that he can play outside, he can play inside, he's going to be on the field. And so you're not taking him out, you're not taking any of those guys off for Ojemudia. So this is a guy where maybe you see enough this season, mostly in practice, where you say, okay, we feel comfortable moving on from Bryce or from Kyle Fuller after this year, so you don't have to pay 3 corners $10 million.
Or both. I mean, really, you could say, okay, we're going to bypass on giving anybody at corner another contract, and then you hope that you've developed a dime, another guy to be your dime, and then Ojemudia becomes your number 3. That's what I think kind of the long-term plan and hope is. And then we obviously is saying Bassie isn't out there, but we know they still have high long-term hopes for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's just why I was talking about this today. Why would an undrafted free agent cornerback come to Denver? I mean, there's just no hope. Why would an undrafted wide receiver come to Denver? I love Warren Jackson. Why did he come to Denver? It doesn't make sense.
Money. They got a good little signing bonus.
Yeah, I guess. But maybe as practice squad guys, Yeah. But that just shows, too, how many times have we said this over the past 5 years of why would a player at position X come to Denver? We haven't really said that because there's always been a spot for someone to make a team. It's good. You're talking about one on offense and on defense.
I'm starting to wonder if I go back to a game against the Chiefs. I want to say it was that first Monday Night Football game against the Chiefs where they almost beat Mahomes. And Chris Harris Jr. after the game saying, I've never been so tired in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder if maybe they're just going to rotate the corners.
Yeah.
Keep them fresh.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot, it's not just the Chiefs. The way the teams are playing these days, there's a lot of downfield routes. There's a lot of, of running around in coverage for these guys. And if you have 4 to 5 guys that you trust, roll them in, roll them out.
Well, and anytime the defense is brought up, how much investment they've had, George Payton doesn't just point to the Chiefs. He points to the Chargers and the Raiders and says, look, I think they all had top 7 passing offenses in the NFL last year. So that absolutely is something he's looking at.
I mean, what's better in the fourth quarter? Is it a rested Ojemudia or Ronald Darby, who's played every snap in the first 3 quarters? That's why you rotate in some. Now, it's typically what you might think of doing if you don't have high level talent in the starting lineup. Like right now, the Nuggets backcourt, it's so depleted that you have to kind of go deep, and your way to counter the Blazers is to try to come at the opponent in waves. The Broncos, if they're healthy, they have the advantage of having talent and depth, so they've got the best of both worlds. And you may look at that situation and say, all right, let's say Darby and Ojemudia, for example. You say, let's save Darby on a couple of possessions early so he's fresh, and we'll play Ojemudia. I mean, it's basically a load management thing within a game. I don't know why more teams don't do this in the NFL. We actually go back to Wade Phillips in 2015. One of the things that helped that defense work was Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware taking series off,
right,
and throwing out Shaq Barrett and Shane Ray. And then when you needed them on third down, when you needed them in the fourth quarter to close it out, Vaughn and D were ready to go, in part because they'd gotten those breathers from Shaq and Shane.
And I remember Vaughn and especially DeMarcus saying, man, I can learn a lot from watching Shane and Shaq rush over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also, guys, just the truth is, Ron Darby had his first complete season last year. That was his first time in 6 years. Bryce Callahan is still looking for that. We talked to Bryce today, and he said that's one of his big goals is to make it 16. This year, 17 games. He's cut out fast food in order to help with that.
He said he wasn't eating it that much, but I think he just kind of tightened it up a little bit.
But yeah, he cut it out and says he's living a healthier lifestyle. But do you guys count on those guys to both play 17 games?
You can't. You get yourself in a lot of trouble when you do.
Yeah. Exactly. So
also,
that's
I just
where this
don't
step
understand
comes in.
professional athletes eating fast food.
So you really think that they should absolutely take the Von Miller approach of, look, I'm a Ferrari. I'm not putting regular gas in me.
A lot of times I'm like on the player side of these things.
Okay.
My thought on this is if you are paid millions of dollars and your number one asset is your body,
yeah,
how are you not just doing anything and everything? It's not like Vaughn eats like unseasoned chicken and Brussels sprouts every night. Like he's eating good meals.
And what blows my mind about that, yes,
chicken.
he is eating chicken.
Although, Marvin Harrison back in the day subsisted on a diet of McDonald's.
That's what I don't understand.
Michael
In the
Jordan
prime of his
smoking,
career, he missed
cigars.
only 2 games in like 7 years. And Peyton Manning loved the dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I just think...
What blows my mind is how are they serving fried food in the Broncos cafeteria?
All right. Every Friday for a long time, it would be like some kind of fast food coming in.
Putting the fried in Friday.
Yeah. Well, actually, when it was hilarious, when Mike Shanahan was there, Friday was always pizza, and it was this uber greasy pizza. I'm not sure where it was from, but it was the greasiest damn pizza I've ever seen. And then Popeye's fried chicken.
Oh.
Like you had the chicken breast, the chicken drumsticks, the red beans and rice, the whole Megillah. And anyway, the thing that would happen is staff got it too, and I believe I did not need to be eating it, but I was. But then the season would end, and like when the first Friday of the off season came around, I had to go out for fried chicken because I was missing that fix. But that's the thing. Like they're even in the facility, and even in recent years, like I remember they had for a while they had Pasta J's coming in on Fridays.
Wow.
They had back when there was a location down in Lone Tree. They had Freddy's.
Yeah.
Coming in on Fridays.
Just blows my mind. My mind. I just feel like, I said, if your main asset is your body, that's why you're making so much money. You would just do anything and everything you can to keep it in peak condition.
Especially they have a full-time nutritionist on staff.
Yeah. And they all have plenty of money to eat delicious and also healthy foods. Yeah. Anyways, before we are going to get to a big-time standout in that cornerback group today. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook, where this week you can bet $1 on any NBA money line and turn that into $100 if you get it right. You've got lots of options. I'm decently confident that you could use it on the Nuggets tonight, but I think there's probably some better options out there.
I was going to say, if RK's saying decently confident, that makes me worried.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great series. It's a close series.
It is.
There's some more lopsided ones out there that you can hop in on. Maybe... Embiid's back. You might want the Sixers in the next game.
Yeah.
Did the Bucks finish that sweep? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think
they did. Okay. So anyways, there's some options out there. Make sure you get in on that. $1 to win $100 if you're a new user at DraftKings Sportsbook. And, of course, you can always get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 when you use the code DNVR at DraftKings Sportsbook. So make sure you do that. Make sure you go download that top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code DNVR when you sign up to get a $1,000 sign-up bonus. Of course, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprises of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. The deposit bonus requires a 25x playthrough and restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
I mean, we're talking about making money out here, whether it's, eating the right things so you can become a professional athlete to make millions, whether it's on DraftKings picking the right series, or something that we all can do, except for you. You have to have a car for this one. Go to Gabby.com/DNVR. Oh, some scooter. I'm sure someone can sell you on that. I'm sure we can get you hooked up. And you know what? If you go to Gabby, Ryan, you can get the best scooter insurance coverage out there because they save people hundreds of dollars, nearly $1,000 a year. In fact, sometimes over $1,000. Our guy, D Lineco, Eric Weedham here, saved $1,300 by using Gabby. I saved over hundreds, a lot per year by using Gabby. And guys, by the time this live pod is over, you will have already done everything you need to do in order to save that money. So go to GABI, it stands for Get a Better Insurance, GABI.com/DNVR. Take 5-10 minutes out of your day, enter in some simple information off the top of your head. They pull from over 40 insurance providers to find the best rate for you. So go to Gabby.com/DNVR.
I also want to tell you about becoming a DNVR member. Of course, right now, the Nuggets and Avs in their playoff runs, no better time to become a DNVR member and take advantage of the coverage that we've got of the Avs and Nuggets than right now. But there's plenty of other reasons. You've got the DNVR League, that's golf league, that's kicking in later this summer. You've got the Discord where you can chat about the Broncos without dealing with all the crap that you deal with on social media. If you come on down to the DNVR bar and there's a raffle, you get extra raffle tickets at those watch parties to win some gear. And, of course, you get that free DNVR shirt with an annual membership and weekly member deals in the DNVR Locker. So if you become a DNVR member on an annual basis or more than that, you're going to get the free T-shirt and the discounts at the DNVR Locker, and that's basically going to pay for itself. And then you're going to get all the other cool stuff that we've got. And don't forget, of course, about coming down to the DNVR bar. And if you're a member, you get that member beer, a big beer for the price of a smaller beer. So many reasons to join our family at thednvr.com.
All right, guys. Well, we talked a little bit about the cornerback rotation without getting into specifics. But, Zach, there was one very specific standout today.
Yes, there was. And, Ryan, today, well, before we get into today, we have a little group chat between you, Brandon, and Andre and I. What's that called?
Bama Boys.
Bama Boys. That's what's developing on the Broncos field right now. Some Bama Boys are really starting to become standouts.
Real quick, the reason why it's called Bama Boys, we don't just pretend like we're from Alabama. It started, the group chat started when the first time we went to the Senior Bowl, which of course is in Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just lived on since then.
So that's where that came from. And the Broncos actually have two guys from Alabama, at least from the University of Alabama. After not drafting anyone from Alabama, they drafted two guys in the first round, and they just happened to be very good. And those are the guys that really standing out outside of the quarterbacks, and one of them, a rookie from Alabama, playing the cornerback position, guys. Patrick Surtain. I mean, Mace, I think you and I, after seeing him last week and hearing some comments, we were gushing about him. Even more so today. One of the things that I saw today, and Jerry Jeudy, who we'll also talk to, the other Bama boy in this, he is great and only getting better from last year. He runs the best routes of anyone on the team. That's fair to say, right? Especially with Courtland Sutton on the sideline.
Even with.
Today, it's true. Today, he tried to put a double move on Surtain, and this would have got so many people. He didn't bite 1 second, and so it was going to be a double move that then went back up for a touchdown. And I think it was Teddy on the field looked that way, just saw how there was no way he was going to be open, turned to the left, I think threw a check down or something. But I just loved seeing that going against one of the best route runners, maybe even in the NFL right now. There was just no bite from Surtain.
And of course, just kind of stepping back and kind of viewing the entire secondary and its coverages, there were a lot of plays where the quarterbacks had to take the checkdowns. We of course have talked about when Bridgewater was able to push it deep, and oftentimes like it was something where you're hoping in game situation that the quarterback has enough time in the pocket, because it took some time for some separation to be generated. But at least within like 1, 2, 3, 3.5 seconds, you weren't seeing a lot of open receivers. And you were seeing the quarterbacks take those checkdowns underneath of the tight ends and outside of the running backs, because the defensive backs were doing so well. I mean, it's no surprise that Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons are what they are. It's a little bit of a surprise that Pat Surtain looks the way he does, looks as proficient as he does right now. Not like Zach said, not falling for the double move, just kind of continuing to play there. I've been impressed so far with Ron Darby out there. Darbs has looked really good. And again, kind of, Bryce Callahan, we know he can make plays, but even Michael Ojemudia, when they go dime, has been solid as well. It is such a deep room right now in the secondary, and if you can get that pass rush to go along with it, this is where you start being able to say this defense could be really special if all these pieces come together.
It's so interesting to me to hear that stuff about Pat Surtain, because when I go back and watch his film, a word comes to me that I don't remember ever thinking about this word when I was watching a corner on tape. Calm. He always looks so calm.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting characteristic for a corner, because how could you be calm when you have no idea what the person is doing,
Yeah.
You have to be so on edge and so alert at all times that you look a little frantic. Most corners just naturally look a little frantic in what they're doing. But you'll watch his tape. He doesn't bite on double moves then either. He's so calm and smooth that he's just like, okay, it's coming. Oh, he's going. Should I go for it? Nope, he's faking. He's very in control, and it looks in college like the game is moving really slow for him.
Yep. And that's what we're already seeing, and I think translating to the double moves. And we even heard that after practice today. Vic Fangio is someone that will give out compliments, but not if it's not earned. And I think he was asked about the two young safeties, and he wasn't afraid to say they're learning a lot right now. And, once they're able to learn everything, then the game's going to come in faster. I think it was Bryce Callahan talking about Surtain after, said he's learning the defense really fast. And he said that's hard to do in Vic Fangio's defense. And if anyone knows that, it's Kyle Fuller and Bryce Callahan, because they've been in Vic's defense longer than anyone else. So, I mean, this praise is translating to the field, but there's also stuff that we aren't seeing on the field that's translating too.
I mean, you wonder where how Kyle Fuller is going to fit in, because the secondary looks good even as constituted.
Yeah, it's true.
It's an embarrassment of riches if you throw Kyle Fuller in there. And the thing with Fuller, I'm not worried about him missing the time, because he's played a good chunk of his career in this defense. He should have a shorter learning curve than anybody else there. But it is interesting to look at how well that secondary is functioning without him, and saying, okay, what happens? How do you divide the time? That's why I think, RK, your notion of kind of shuttling guys in and out and making sure that they're staying fresh is something that has a lot of merit. If you can go 5 deep with guys you trust, then why wouldn't you give each of them a breather now and then again to keep them fresh?
And if it works, if all goes to plan, it might actually help the Bryce Callahans and Ronald Darby stay healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And so today, when it was just those three, with Kyle Fuller not there, not a surprise. You saw Bryce inside, and then you saw Darby and Surtain on the outside, just as we thought. But there's been a lot of talk, specifically from Vic, saying, Surtain needs to learn every position. He needs to be able to play inside. We may see him inside. When push comes to shove, guys, they're not going to put Callahan on the outside and have Surtain inside. They're going to do what makes sense. And I'm happy to see that they're not going to force something weird, because Callahan's one of the best slot corners in the game right now. Darby's good on the outside. Keep Surtain on the outside. So you're going to see, unless it needs to happen, you're going to see Surtain on the outside, as it should be.
I like it. Mm-hmm. I like it. And I love hearing that Surtain is making that transition so smooth. I don't know, it's just one of those things. Certain guys just have a football makeup, and he very clearly is coming from football DNA. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to really, really help him with this. It just does. Football is second nature to certain guys. And I think for him, that's sure what it sounds like. If he's the type of person who can pick up Vic Fangio's defense quickly, it makes sense why they were so in love with him in the draft.
It's not just the player, it's also where they're from as well. Because the way he kind of is completely unruffled by everything. It reminds, seeing the Alabama guys kind of like that, it reminds me of the Miami guys back in the day when Miami ruled college football. I remember DJ Williams coming in here in 2004, and he came from out of the U and just immediately stepped right in and looked comfortable. Nothing, didn't bat an eye. And there's something to be said for coming from those college programs that closely approximate NFL shops, to where it's going to be easier, and you're not going to be thrown off by it when the standard at those programs is so high.
Yeah. Speaking of the standard at those programs, the last guy I want to touch on here, we talked a little bit about him, and you heard his name. I mean, if you were listening closely during the quarterbacks portion of this show, this guy's name, and then he had a completion to Judy, and then he had that other completion to Judy, and then he found Judy. Jerry Jeudy was popping up a lot today.
Both quarterbacks looking his way, and why would you not, especially with Courtland Sutton not participating in 7-on-7s, far and away the best receiver on the field, and he's doing it everywhere. He's doing it deep, he's doing it short, he's doing it outside, he's doing it on the inside, he's coming underneath, getting the checkdowns, and that's what you love to see, that he's not a one-dimensional player. I don't think anyone thought he was, but he's really growing in this offense, and that's one of the things he talked about after practice was, and speaking of calm, he seemed a lot more calm on the field, also when we talked to him, and he said one of the things last year was it seemed like it was just, he was thinking too much, and he was thinking about what move is he going to make before catching the pass, and then so he would try to make that move without catching the ball. Now he's saying, okay, things are slowing down for me, and then another key thing for him, and I thought that this was just huge that he realized, was the timing of routes and how important that is, because he knows he can get separation, but sometimes he was trying to get separation by doing too many things with his route running, and it threw the route off, so he would end up being half a second late too early, and now he knows, okay, I can do one move to get open on this route, but this other route, I'm the third read, so I have an extra second to make an extra move to get some separation, and then it'll come to me. That is that next level thinking from a wide receiver, and I'd love to see Jerry taking that just his second year.
There's another thing also in play. He didn't really touch on this, but he did mention how Bridgewater is good at making an anticipatory throw. And one thing with Jerry Jeudy, so a lot of his struggles last year were on him, but there is that stat that he had, I think, the second highest percentage of uncatchable passes that were targeted to him. So passes that he couldn't do anything about. Forget about the drops, the ones that just he wasn't getting to. And you wonder what kind of impact that had on him mentally. Whereas if you're in a situation where there's a bit more accuracy and you can trust the ball is going to be there, and you know that if you do your job as a route runner, that ball is going to be pretty much on target. And I wonder if that is sort of kind of setting him free a little bit watching him, because today he looked more comfortable, more settled, more confident, which is saying a lot because he's a confident guy, but he looked more confident than I've ever seen him before.
And it's clear his confidence was shaken at some point last year. But I love that he said that about the timing of routes, because it's so funny. You'll go and you'll get a zoomed in angle of just Jerry in the corner, and he does like 3 little hezzies, and then he cuts in on the slant, and it's like, oh my God, he cooked that guy.
Yep.
Zoom out to the all 22. Well, what happened? While he was doing 3 jukes, Drew looked that way,
right?
Had to wait for him. As he was waiting for him, someone breaks through. Drew has to take a step back. He throws off his back foot. It's over its head. It's a pick. It's whatever.
Right.
That type of stuff is so important. The quarterback needs to be able to go through his reads on time, and the wide receivers have a responsibility in that too. Now, what Drew probably should have done is when he looked over there and he was in the middle of, it's just gone through it.
Yep.
But he probably knew he's going to come open, so I'll just try and wait another half second. It doesn't work that way a lot of the times unless your offensive line is playing really well. So, I love that Jerry's seeing that, because it's not this big problem of, he's taking so much time on all of his breaks. It's a little minor detail that you can go in and you can say, okay, if I'm the first read on a slant, I need to make one move and go. And if I'm covered, I'm covered. But then Drew can go on, or Teddy can go on to the next read. And that's why you hear about these players making these big jumps between year 1 and year 2, because year 1, you're like, I'm gonna cook this corner, watch this crazy move. Year 2, you're saying, all right, I got one move, I got to beat him with it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're already seeing that. And guys, if he just improves on these 2 things, which is something he says he has down, he's a 1,000-yard receiver easily this year in my mind.
Yeah. He's going crazy this year. I'm putting my name on it right now. Like, I've been confident in Jerry Jeudy from day one. This is a breakout year for him. Regardless of quarterback, he's definitely over 1,000.
I think it's him and Fant that both have breakout years. And I think like today on offense, they were the 2 stars. And when they were generating separation with their routes and the quarterbacks were finding them, I mean, it was chunk after chunk that they were able to get. And you throw Cortland Sutton in there, now you're getting into a situation where I don't know if many teams have the ability to cover all 3 of them.
Yeah, the Broncos do.
Yeah, not many do. And then it comes down to the quarterback just making the good decision. And then you got Tim Patrick potential, and you know what he can do and how reliable he is. The quarterback simply just has to make the smart decision, throw to the open man. Don't force it.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's something that we're going to see. And guys, what we're finding out from Vic, this quarterback competition is going to go a long time. I mean, we're just about 100 days away from the start of the regular season. I think we're 90 days away from finding out who the quarterback is going to be. This is going to be something that maybe 3 months we're away from finding out.
Oh, I hate it. Come on, Aaron.
Unless it's Aaron Rodgers.
Which, happy June 1st, by the way, guys.
June 1st, a lot of people on Twitter today saying,
where's
the news? Well, for starters, post June 1st, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so tomorrow.
Beyond that, if we're reading the tea leaves here, it doesn't look like anything's imminent.
No, it certainly doesn't. I mean, this, just like the Broncos quarterback competition is taking a while, the Aaron Rodgers thing is going to take a long time, guys. I think that either Aaron's going to have to come out and say something, which I don't think happens anytime soon, or we're going to have to get to the point where he's missing training camp. He's missing preseason games. He's maybe even missing the beginning of the season for the Packers to say, okay, you're not bluffing. we'll finally trade you.
At the same time, though, if you're Green Bay, if it becomes apparent that he's not going to play, then and they don't know that Jordan Love is the guy, it behooves them to get somebody in there sooner. And so that's the one thing where I think if something happens, it ends up being after minicamp and maybe right at the start of training camp. Like if it's apparent that he's not going to come in for training camp, and they're like, okay, we got to get somebody else in here.
I kind of think that they know if they don't have Aaron Rodgers, they're effed. So it's
might as well
try and hang on as long as you can. And once he's gone, he's gone. We're gonna go 5-11 anywhere. 5-12.
My biggest concern with that, Mason, you may very well be right that they would want a quarterback in return. That's bad news for the Broncos. Right now, I think if the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers, he's coming to Denver. It's going to be the Broncos. If it's they want to make a move earlier because they want to get a quarterback in return and upgrade that position a ton.
Could be just Teddy Bridgewater they want to come in and
just somebody to.
Well, then that's
just somebody to be
that.
Just somebody to be there if Jordan Love's not ready, and then if they decide Love isn't the guy, then with the draft capital they've accumulated, it might not matter if they go 11-6 with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. They have so many picks that they can easily work their way up and put themselves in the Howell and Rattler sweepstakes next year.
But no offense, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater just traded to the Broncos for a 6th-round pick. It's not like he's this
but Mace
super
is saying,
tough.
Yeah.
right, you just want to get the quarterback in there, especially if they don't think Jordan Love is ready, just to get him up to speed by the time the season starts.
Man, and if they're concerned about that, then, I mean, well, they've already handled a lot of this wrong. That would just be worrying about timing of Teddy Bridgewater in order to trade Aaron Rodgers, I think is wrong.
The hard part for me in kind of dissecting this is you have to assume, I like to assume logic, but the Packers aren't acting logically.
Right.
Like the comment here. It
Yes.
says, this is like not letting your girlfriend leave after she broke up with you. Don't make it weird.
Right.
They're making it very weird.
Yes, they are.
by his words, by his actions, even though he hasn't said it, clear. Okay, he was just tap dancing around. If you heard the comment about the Wedding Crashers scene last week that Aaron Rodgers made to Kenny Mayne, that said everything about where he stands. He's moving on. He wants them to get to the point where they say they're moving on.
Let's all move on.
Giving up the ghost. Let's all move on. Throw a couple miles at me and let's all move on.
Well, Ryan, I mean that's too cryptic. Ryan, you use the relationship.
But that's how he operates. He's always been a little bit cryptic and
he's
calculated in what he says.
Because Ryan, you mentioned the relationship one last week, where if you text a girl and she just responds "F you, F you, F you," and you're like, "Hey, maybe there's still something," and you still get the F you. Aaron Rodgers has not said the FU. He said...
No, he is behind closed doors.
Yeah, but
he's going to have to take the FU and put the screenshot on social media.
He also doesn't want to have an entire fan base thinking that is angry at him. I think...
But that's having your cake and eating it too.
Right, but
he's going to have to give or choose here. He's
right,
going
but
to
he
have to
clearly
go back.
still cares about the people that have supported him, whether it's his coaches, teammates...
Well, then go back and play
fans.
if you care about them.
He cares about him. The management issues in his mind are such to where that pollutes everything. So he wants to have what he likes about football, which is the camaraderie, playing it, having a chance to win, without what he doesn't like about football, which appears to be Brian Gutekunst and Mark Murphy.
So
right there.
So I think it's going to have to get ugly one way or another.
Uglier?
Rodgers showing up. Not showing up to OTAs is not a big deal. Kyle Fuller isn't showing up to OTAs. Is it ugly?
Melvin
No.
Gordon isn't.
Is it a good look? I mean, certainly it's not a good look, but is it ugly? No. It's good. And missing mandatory minicamp, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Didn't Tom Brady do that 2 years ago with the Patriots? And again, good look? No. Ugly? No. I think it's going to get ugly to the point of him having to come out and say something and alienate the fan base in order to get him out of there, or not show up to training camp, that sort of thing. That's when it's ugly. Do you guys see it resolving itself without that?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so how and when? So you think that'll happen before training camp?
I just think that eventually the Packers are going to come to terms with the fact that they can either not have him and get nothing other than $30 million, or they can not have him and get something.
Yeah.
And they're just going to say, let's take the something.
Before camp.
Okay.
That would be the best for everyone, that's for sure.
You hope so. The logical thing would be to happen this week.
Or the other thing that happens is they give him whatever he wants, because I really do think he has given them some sort of ultimatum. You give me this, I'll come back. It could just be firing Gutekunst.
And that's why I don't think there's the FU text.
Or give him Julio Jones. That's the one thing that if they did, I think Aaron Rodgers would come back, is Julio.
Yeah.
That's an easy move if you're them.
It's very easy, especially you hear you
got to squeeze that contract in. That's the problem.
You make it happen.
Find a way, but that's the one thing.
It's a lot easier than finding a way to repair a bridge with Aaron Rodgers.
And that requires the Packers have to go outside their box. Green Bay as an organization, they don't like kicking things down the road. They don't like these wacky restructures that allow you to somehow squeeze a guy in right now, but kind of like the Saints. Like the Packers would never do what the Saints do. That is just not their MO. So Green Bay has to think outside of its own box here and say, all right, if we want to make Aaron Rodgers happy, getting Julio Jones means we have to adjust like 3 or 4 other contracts, this, that, the other. But can you do that? Sure. We have seen teams around the league do that over the years, but that has not been something that the Packers as an organization have been willing to do. And it is, the pace of life in Green Bay is slow, and the pace at which the Packers seem to change and evolve and adapt is equally slow.
Well, we are going to talk plenty more about Aaron Rodgers the rest of this week, I'm sure.
Yes.
And maybe even in the comment section on the second half of the pod here. So we're going to move over to the comment section where we read all comments or most comments from people who come in and leave us if they're a DNVR member. You can do that, of course, if you become a DNVR member. And, of course, you can listen to our podcast anywhere you download podcasts. Just search Broncos. We're the first one that comes up.
And really quick, Ryan, before we get out of here, speaking of our family and members, we just hit 10,000 followers on Twitter over at DNVR Broncos. So thank you all so much for making that happen. It is such an honor to be rolling with all of you and every single one of you. We really appreciate it. And let's just keep growing this fam on YouTube, on Twitter, and thank you so much for rolling with us, and hit us with a thumbs up and a subscribe right now on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. It really helps us.
All right, moving over to the pod. We'll see you then.